A charcoal line, hastily scratched on a doorway, reads something like, "I was here, for love." The ink-black stroke glows against the faded plaster of a modest entrance, and in that instant the ancient city seems to lean forward, as if whispering a secret across 2 millennia. It is midday on a summer day in 79 CE. Scholars estimate the first tremor that rattled Pompeii's stone street struck sometime near 1 p.m., not in the early morning as older reconstructions sometimes suggested. The tremor is only the opening note of a larger, volcanic symphony that will soon drown the city, but the voice we hear is not the roar of Vesuvius, it is the quiet defiance of ordinary Romans who left their mark on the walls of homes, shops, baths, and taverns. When Giuseppe Fiorelli's workers began to clear the ash in the 1860s, they uncovered more than marble statues and mosaics. The Corpus Inscriptionum Latinarum, CIL, eventually catalogued roughly 2,000 to 3,000 graffiti fragments from Pompeii, each assigned a CIL number. These short, informal inscriptions, scratched with a stylus or painted with charcoal, range from the blunt "I was here" to love verses, political slogans, jokes, curses, and practical advertisements. Each one is a fragment of a conversation that never ended, a moment frozen in the soot-blackened plaster before the city was buried. Beat 1, love in the margins. In the intimate courtyard of a domus near the house of the Vetii, a stylus traced a tender phrase that reads, in the original Latin, Mamat, CIL 3:1202. Scholars note that the exact reading and meaning of this fragment remain debated. Some see it as a term of endearment, others as a nickname whose sense has been lost. A few meters away, another wall bears the words Amor et Vita, love and life. These inscriptions cluster in private spaces, bedrooms, small atria, the cool interiors of bathhouses, suggesting that the walls themselves served as personal diaries, a place where feelings could be aired without parchment or a messenger. The immediacy of charcoal or a sharp stylus meant that a fleeting emotion could be recorded in seconds, preserved forever under ash. The love graffiti reveal more than sentiment, they hint at literacy levels among women and men of modest means. While elite literature required formal education, the simplicity of these messages shows that a basic ability to write Latin was widespread enough to allow a shopkeeper's wife or a teenage apprentice to leave a quick note. The presence of misspellings and crude hearts underscores that these were not polished verses but spontaneous outbursts, echoing the same urgency a modern text message might convey. Beat 2, politics on public stone. The forum's bustling streets echoed with the shouts of agitators, and the walls bear the remnants of that clamor. One fragment, traditionally linked to CIL 3:1210, has been cited by some scholars as possibly containing a political slogan that could be rendered as Caius Pompeius ist tyrannus, populus vote. Yet the fragment is heavily broken, and the exact wording cannot be reconstructed with certainty. The interpretation remains speculative. Other graffiti, such as a call to senatus audite vocem plebis, demonstrate that ordinary citizens used the city's architecture as a democratic forum, a practice that anticipates the later Roman posting of the acta diurna daily official notices, on public walls. Spatial analysis by researchers including Andrew Wallace Hadrell shows a concentration of political messages near the Forum, the main basilica, and the baths. This distribution mirrors the official notice posting zones established in the late Republic, suggesting that the state tolerated, or at least did not suppress, the use of public walls for civic discourse. The graffiti therefore blur the line between spontaneous citizen expression and semi-official propaganda. Beat 3, humor, curses, and everyday banter. In a modest tavern on the Via dell'Abbondanza, identified archaeologically as a taberna serving wine and simple fare, a drunken patron etched a ribald joke about a baker's wife who baked more than bread, CIL 3:1225. Nearby, a curse reads a dit percussion cum pes fractus, may the gods strike you with a broken foot. Such inscriptions pepper the walls with puns, riddles, and mock insults, showing that humor was a daily sustenance for Pompeians just as much as wine. The jokes often reference contemporary products, wine, fish, olives, giving us a sensory map of the market stalls that once lined the street. The curses, meanwhile, hint at a belief in the power of words to affect fate, a cultural thread that runs through many ancient societies. The prevalence of these informal, often irreverent messages underscores that public space in Pompeii was a venue for both serious debate and light-hearted chatter. **** beat for advertisements and announcements ***. Near the amphitheater, a painted sign announces Ludi Cras, spectate bestias. Games tomorrow, see the beasts. A wall in the **Macellum** bears a fragment that appears to list a slave for sale, mentioning a price in sestertii, CCIL 3:1242. While the exact wording of the inscription differs from earlier catalogues, the fragment nonetheless illustrates how merchants and owners used walls as low-cost notice boards. The economic vibrancy of Pompeii depended on this highly visible medium. The coexistence of advertisements with love notes and political slogans underscores how fluid the public-private divide was in Roman urban life. Even the **Loci** of these messages, near the **Thermi**, the **Forum**, and the main thoroughfares, reflect a sophisticated network of information exchange that prefigures modern billboard culture. **Beat 5, Religion and the Sacred ***. Beyond the secular, the walls also carry devotional marks. A small niche in a house dedicated to the goddess Fortuna bears a short invocation that may read something like Fortuna favatilis qui fidels sunt, fortune favors those who are faithful. In the vicinity of the Temple of Apollo, a pilgrim's hand-scratched Veni ad Apollinum ut gratii quaerum, I come to Apollo to seek favor. These religious graffiti illustrate that personal piety was woven into everyday spaces, and that the act of inscribing a prayer was as ordinary as leaving a love note. *** Mid-story turn, a semi-official network ***. Recent GIS-based studies by Wallace Hadrell and colleagues have mapped the spatial distribution of thousands of graffiti fragments. Their findings reveal that the densest clusters occur not only where crowds gathered but also along routes later used for the official posting of **Acta Diurna Star. Moreover, certain graffiti echo the formulaic language of state edicts, employing similar abbreviations and even the same stylus strokes identified on authenticated tablets. This evidence forces a re-evaluation. The graffiti were not merely spontaneous vandalism but part of a semi-official communication network. The Roman administration may have tolerated, or subtly encouraged, citizen-generated scribbles as a way to gauge public opinion, fill informational gaps, or simply to make the walls a more vibrant civic space. The turn recontextualizes the graffiti as a vital component of Roman public life, a democratizing force that allowed the voice of the many to mingle with the voice of the state. *** Beat 6, Preservation, Casts, and Modern Discovery ***. When Vesuvius erupted, the ash fell like a thick, dark grey blanket of pumice, sealing the city in an anaerobic tomb. The plaster walls, still damp from the last rain of the season, absorbed the hot gases, and the charcoal lines were carbonized, becoming indelible. Centuries later, in 1748, the first systematic excavations began under the Bourbon King of Naples. Workers uncovered the first plaster casts of victims, and soon after, the graffiti emerged from the layers of pumice. Fiorelli's introduction of plaster fill techniques in the 1860s allowed archaeologists to preserve voids left by decomposed bodies, but it also helped protect the fragile ink and stylus marks on walls. Modern conservation methods, microscopic analysis, 3D laser scanning, and pigment spectroscopy have revealed even the faintest strokes, enabling scholars to read jokes and curses that a Roman teenager might have whispered a day before the mountain roared. The cataloging effort continues today. The *corpus inscriptionum latinarum * lists roughly 2,000 to 3,000 graffiti fragments from Pompeii alone, each assigned a CIL number. Ongoing digital projects map these inscriptions onto a virtual model of the city, allowing researchers and the public to explore the ancient conversation layer by layer. Recent publications, such as the volume edited by Margaret L. Wilson on Pompeian epigraphy stressed that many fragments remain unreadable, reminding us that the surviving sample is only a fraction of the original chorus. **** Final scene, echoes in ash ****. The story returns to that first charcoal line, the vague "I was here, for love." It sits beside a faint outline of a later hand, a 19th century tourist's neat annotation reading "Graffiti of Pompeii." The wall, now exposed to sunlight, still bears the weight of those ancient breaths. What else lies hidden in the cracks, waiting for a future eruption of curiosity? Historians still debate how many of the political messages were truly grassroots versus state-sponsored, how literacy varied across gender and class, and what proportion of the graffiti represent genuine everyday speech versus stylized performance. The walls of Pompeii continue to speak, but the full conversation remains just beyond our grasp, urging us to listen more closely to the ordinary lives that once pulsed through this vibrant city.